Okay. I mean, I'm not overly concerned, I suppose is the best way to say it, because I'm not particularly believing the rumors of what's going on with Elon Musk at the moment. Just let me make sure that I've actually got everything all set up and ready to go here. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know where you particularly begin with this because, to be honest, I think this is just something that sort of stemmed from nothing. I'm not particularly sure what is actually true with this, what's not. It's a bit of a mess at the moment. Just make sure I've got everything all. Where are we? Bear with me one moment. Mm, Yeah. So yeah, we'll start with off and just make sure that everything's all set up and ready. But yeah, welcome back to Good Sport Reviews. We're going through the I don't even know what you'd call it. I suppose this is just the tip of it, of how little people actually want this to go through the Elon Musk deal. Now, I just want to sort of clarify that it's from what I've heard, it's not true. It's just complete fiction. It's been brought up just as a simple way, I think, for people to get clicks, just for a way to people to get a story going out, and it's stemmed from this sort of narrative of Elon Musk apparently having connections to Liverpool. I don't buy it for a minute. I'm not particularly concerned. I don't think this is something that we really need to worry about, but I just thought we'd sort of go into it and dive into it a bit because it's interesting, I suppose, to say the least. We've been with this ownership now of FSG since 2010, and I think they're very much a sort of probably the biggest fan divide, I think, in Liverpool, arguably Liverpool history. You can say what you want about players, you can say what you want about expenditure, say what you want about youth play, anything you want. FSG are the biggest divide amongst the fan base, and I think it's split more or not 50-50 down the middle. I've never been a big proprietor of getting FSG out. I've never had the issue personally. I understand there's people who want them to spend money. I understand there's people who want them to go out and spend X amount of cash in order to get people into the club. I don't see the issue personally. I've never had a problem. And looking at this Elon Musk saga as the potential other option, I'm so happy with the ownership we've got at the moment because this is just a sort of a warning of things could be worse. Things could be much, much worse than they are. And, money is the biggest thing in football. Money talks, essentially. And Elon Musk is the richest man on planet Earth. If you go and buy actually what he makes, he's actually double Jeff Bezos, or he's near and near enough about. He's $415 billion. And I think people are looking at that and thinking, great, we can sign whoever we want. It doesn't work that way. We know it doesn't work that way. And this I don't even know where to particularly begin with this because it just feels like it's a bit of a mess, to be honest. So, if it's based on the news that we're hearing today, is that according to Elon Musk's father, who I believe is called Errol Musk, is the correct name, if I'm getting that completely right. He said that he has an interest in buying the club. Who wouldn't? Obviously, his family have connections in Liverpool. His family have connections. His grandmother was from there. We have family there. The family grew up with the Beatles, sure. So did my nan. Doesn't mean anything. And he would like to buy the club. Now, this is all stemming from recent or over the past 2 years that FSG was supposedly looking to sell Liverpool. They were supposedly looking to sell them for around £4 to £5 billion after taking them over when we were just, I think it was, you remember the exact amount? I think it was 300 million or something daft like that. They've obviously built them up to this institution where they are now. And the narrative has sort of become they want to sell, they want to get out while they can, so to speak. John Henry's not getting any younger. There's all these other factors that come around it. They've obviously got a lot of investment in America, part of the Red Sox. There's a lot of other strategies and financial things involved, and they want to get out. But obviously, earlier on this last season, diversity came in. They added a shareholder to the money. So it's clear that they don't want to sell. They want to just add more money coming in and then use that to forward the club. And we've seen that with the improvement of the stadium, bar the leaks, obviously, the training grounds, the youth systems, everything coming up, everything getting developed and everything built. But this just seems like a story from nothing. I think this was just someone putting something to his father, saying like, would he be interested in buying him? Of course he would. It seems to be the trend in modern football nowadays. These American owners coming over to England, buying these clubs for cheap deals. Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, obviously with Wrexham is the biggest story. Tom Brady, I believe, is in Birmingham now. There's stuff going on over there. There's been so many people linked with football clubs. It's ridiculous. Taylor Swift was at one point with, I think, Notts County, if I'm not mistaken. That was last season or earlier on this season. So this is just the newest trend, I think, that's going on. Elon Musk, another one who is now falling part of that. He's falling into that sort of category. He's a very rich man with too much money, and this just screams of that. This just screams of someone who's got too much money, who doesn't know what to do with it. So let's just link him to the club that he's obviously had some sort of rooted relationship with, and just see where we go with this and get clicks and buys, yada yada yada. And it's via TalkSport as well, which you can sort of do what you want, say what you want kind of thing with that. But yeah, it's not something I'm overly concerned about personally. It's something which is just here to get things. And we got the full quote here. Elon Musk's father and reported interest in buying LFC. I can't comment on that, or they'll raise the price. I mean, probably that does sound like FSG, to be fair. He'd like to, yes, obviously anyone would want to. His grandmother was born in Liverpool and we have relatives in Liverpool. I didn't know that. I'll be honest, I didn't know that there was some sort of link to Elon Musk in Liverpool. I thought this was just I thought this was like AI generated or someone had made it up. But, here we are. There's something that apparently is happening. This is something that supposedly Elon Musk is linked with. I'm just going to double check, make sure I've actually got all this stuff here. But yeah, the thing is, I don't think FSG are bad. I don't think FSG are the best owners by far. They're not. They're really not. There is moments they should have invested. There are moments where they definitely need to. The 2021 season, obviously centre backs were awful. We ended up with Ozan Kabak and Ben Davies, Henderson at centre back, Fabinho as a go centre back. There's time to invest. There's time to bring the money in, and I think FSG have been this ownership that the moment things go wrong, they're the first people that everyone jumps to. They're the first people that everyone gets on and says, "You need to spend more money. You need to spend this on this. You need to bring in a left back." Right now, that's the biggest target area. Trent's going to be going. What right back are you going to be bringing in? Zubimendi, get him in. Like the minute transfers don't happen, it falls straight on them. And FSG aren't just this money tycoon who are there to throw cash around. They've essentially built us from this struggling institution when we were under Hicks and Gillette, and they've turned us into this multi-billion pound industry. We are valued at around 5 billion. I think we're in the top 10 in the world at the moment. And every season, without fail, we comply to the rules we need to. And you look at City now, you look at Chelsea now, you look at United, you look at all these big clubs who are struggling financially, who are in destitute situations, who are in times of crisis where there's charges against them, they're in debt, they're having to splash cash on this player in order to accommodate for this, and they're having to sell youth academy prospects. Man City selling Cole Palmer to comply with FFP regulations. We are not in that position. We have never been in that position in the Premier League. And I think it's something that goes very underappreciated, because as much as we'd like to sit here and imagine that we can sign this £100 million player, there's an issue here, just throw cash at it. That's great. But then at that point, when do you draw the comparison from us and Man City, who have been this global £1 billion spending tycoon who can buy £800 million worth of defenders in John Stones, Akanji, Laporte, Diaz, Walker, Zinchenko, and when they don't work, you can get rid of them and bring in the next shiny model. That's great. That sounds great on paper. But then you end up in the situation they're in now, where financially they are destitute. They're in a struggling period where they can't bring in whoever they want because they simply do not have the resources to do it, because they're teetering on the edge of financial irregularity. It makes no sense for us to demand from an ownership that we breach those rules. And we've always been a sell to buy club. We sold Suarez in 2014. We used that money to invest in the squad, albeit pretty poorly. In the summer, it was this window where we signed Balotelli and Markovic, but we also got Lallana. We also got Dejan Lovren, who was okay. I mean, Ricky Lambert aside as well. Like, we've always been that club. We then sell Coutinho. We use that money to bring in Van Dijk and Alisson and Fabinho and Keita. That's just who we are. We're not this club that's going to go out and spend copious amounts of money without sound reinvestment. That's just not us. And the sooner people can just click this, the better things will be, because that's not going to change. And all these things saying Elon Musk's here, Elon Musk this, he's got this amount of money. He can be the richest person on the planet. That's no problem. Him alone is, I believe it's 200 billion short of what Newcastle have, which is a fully backed state. Like, I've got the list of owners here, and if you have a look through this, there's Crystal Palace, Everton. Liverpool's current ownership, John W. Henry and Tom Werner, they're valued at around 9.6 billion or 9.8 billion dollars, should I say. And then you're going down to Newcastle, who at the moment, they're sovereign backed. They are on 620 billion pounds. And you look at the restrictions they're complying with. They're in a situation where they lost Sandro Tonali. He got banned, obviously, because of his betting allegations, and they could not spend the money because you have a certain limit and threshold of what you can spend and what you can buy. It's all well and good saying bring in Musk. It's all well and good saying get rid of FSG and bring this person in. There's a rule set. There's a certain amount you can spend, and FSG don't breach it because that's not their model. And I've always said I would rather be in a situation where financially we are secure for the long term, so that 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, we're not seeing the repercussions of, say, a Man City who spent so much money during the Mancini era to win that first Premier League title. Terrific moment, the greatest in league history, that moment, the Aguero moment. It will live forever. But now, near 15 years down the line, they are feeling the repercussions of the money that was spent then. And I don't want that, because it taints everything you've done along the way. Sound investment is phenomenal. Spending that money correctly is phenomenal. It's brilliant when we do bring in big name players. We signed Thiago Alcantara. That was big at the time. But if it's going to be a detriment later on, if it's going to find us in a position where we're having to sell these young prospects we've got coming through, the likes of Tyler Morton, Trey Neone, McConnell, Jaden Dans, like all these young talented prospects that we've got, if this means we're going to be losing them for the short-term success, but for long-term failure, I don't want it. It's not my desire. And I know there are people who are very much FSG needs to go out, they're not spending the money, they're not doing this. There's moments to invest, there's moments to bring in this player to strengthen. It doesn't matter. We came second in the 18-19 season. We went into that next summer, we bought Harvey Elliott, we bought Adrian, and we bought Sepp Vandenberg. Of those three players, Adrian has hardly featured. He won as the Super Cup, which is fantastic. Sepp Vandenberg's gone to Brentford, and Harvey Elliott is still not a guaranteed first teamer. And we still won the league because FSG know when to spend and they know when not to spend. And there are moments where you can look back and say, we should have bought players here. That's fantastic. That's all well and good. But they still know what they've got. They knew we had Jurgen Klopp who could get things moving and get things going in the right direction. And at that point, you don't have to spend, because if it just means spending there to guarantee it for that season or two, down the road, it can come back to bite us. And that's not saying I don't want investments, because I absolutely do. But I just want it to be smart. And I'm not prepared for these people to come in and be like, say that Elon Musk is the answer. He's got this amount of money. He can spend this much cash. It's his money. Tesla, SpaceX, Twitter, or X as this now know, which has gone down the shitter. There's so much like ramifications to it, and it doesn't make sense. The people who were saying bring him in because he can spend, he won't be able to spend whatever he wants. Look at Newcastle, as I said before. They came in, people expected a mass takeover like we saw when Sheikh Mansour took over at Man City. It didn't happen because it can't happen, because the rules have been implemented to prevent it from happening. If he comes in, he will probably say, spend on this player, do this, do that, similar to what Todd Bowley did. He's willing to invest the cash. But yeah, we give Chelsea criticism every other week because they've got a squad full of 30-something players, not all of whom can actually get into the squad. And half of the players they've bought, or maybe even three-quarters of the players they've bought, have been awful. Sterling is already out on loan. Disasi is a mess. Cucurella has only just started to come good. And that's just three players off the top of my head. Koulibaly's already went. Money is not the answer. And I'm happy with the ownership to be spending in the smart manner of which they are. They do need to strengthen right now in terms of Zubimendi or bringing in a CDM, maybe another centre back and maybe a left back. That's fine. But I'm not going to cry over it if we don't. Because like Slot said today, the players deserve the chance and the trust to be able to show what they can do. And that is a message that is echoed throughout this club. We have a terrific squad, top of the Premier League, top of the Champions League, semi-final of the Carabao Cup. It works. So it's all well and good saying bring in this player for depth, bring in this option that we could bring in. I agree. But it's not the end of the world if we don't. And it's just something that needs to change. FSG are not the devil. They're not the Glazers. They're not Todd Bowley. They're not Stan Kroenke for a long time, who recently has turned things around slightly, which was thanks to Edu, who's now left. All ownerships are in it for themselves. FSG are in it for themselves. That's something that they've not come into this with our mindset and with our benefit in mind. They don't care about that. That's not where they're making their money. They're making money for them. That's the whole reason they've done this. They've invested so they can make money. That's fine. I want someone who's going to come in and invest the money in this club because they care about it and want us to succeed. No owner in world football is doing that. They don't care. They want money for themselves, and that's not going to change. The best thing you can hope for is an owner who's going to spend the money to improve their stock, to improve their profit margin, but it still comes off successful. And that's what we're doing. And it could be so much worse than what it is. Going through, there's a lot of things. I'm bored of transfer talk, to be honest. Like, not transfer talk, contract talk, because Van Dijk's not done yet. Salad of Trent. And I said earlier on, like, that anything is going to get interpreted as rumours. Anything that we discuss is going to get interpreted as negotiation. It's going to get interpreted as mind games. Salah, after the United game, is posting a picture of him, Trent, and Virgil van Dijk. That's been taken as something. Jamie Carragher tweets something. Salah responds. That's taken as something. It's all hearsay. It's all stuff that people just randomly point to and say it's clearly about contract negotiations when in actuality, it might not be. Anything that they say or do is going to be misinterpreted at this point. But I suppose the Fabrizio one is positive news. They've been confident in reaching an agreement with Van Dijk over a new deal, but there's not been a breakthrough yet. His priority is Liverpool. Now, obviously, there was all these reports, all these rumours that he was offered to Real Madrid, which he probably might have been. That's not something that we can really deny. He probably has been at some stage been touted with Real Madrid because he's the best centre back in the world, or he's one of the best centre backs. If you're Real Madrid and you can get him on free, there's no denying that he would probably do fantastic for you. It's just whether or not it's the right move for him. And for him, it probably would be, but Madrid have said no. Madrid have said they're not interested because he doesn't fit the profile they want. And I think they've learned from what PSG have started to do, where you can bring in these big name players on high wages. That's fantastic. But the ideal scenario is to bring in young players who are going to develop and turn into a long-term project. And Van Dijk, as good as he is not that. He's in his 30s now. I think he's 33, going on 34 soon. Though he's 32, going on 33. He's not a long-term project. He has had severe injuries. He's come back from them absolutely fantastic, but he's not going to be the long-term solution. I think that's why Madrid have probably just said they're not interested purely because of that. And if that means I keep him, fair enough. I feel like his priority would be us. I'm looking around Europe and you're looking at all these big teams. You're looking at your Bayern Munich, your Real Madrid, your Barcelonas, your PSGs, all these sides, and you just struggle to find one that Van Dijk would probably fit in. I think Bayern are a good shout, but they still have young centre-backs, young, long-term talented centre-backs who can be there for a long time. Van Dijk would absolutely smash it in the Bundesliga, but no, there's no club I can see in Europe at the moment where I'm looking at it and thinking that's a great fit for him. He is in his 30s. He is on high wages. And I think for him, the best priority he can have is stay at Liverpool. Stay at Liverpool as long as you can and develop not develop, but just keep going, just stay here as long as you can until you get to a stage in your career like Thiago Silva has, where you want to move back to Holland, maybe, or maybe you want to go to Saudi, or maybe you want to go to the MLS, because I think this is as good as it's going to get for him, and that's not a knock on his talent whatsoever. He's one of the best centre backs in Premier League history, top 5, easy. But he's not going to go to Real Madrid. Barcelona cannot afford him. He's not a PSG model player now. Bayern would probably be the best shout, and even then they've got players in those positions. If his priority is Liverpool, absolutely perfect, because I think that Man United game proved he is the true captain of his team. Obviously, he's the captain anyway, but he's the true leader in that back line. Trent, after that Man United game, showed anything but leadership. And if the contract negotiations or the contract discussions are that Trent wants the captaincy, Trent wants to become the captain in this back line and be offered a 5-year deal, he's got to improve the way he's looking on the pitch, because the attitude, the overall commitment from him, the desire to defend, the desire to track back was not there. And then you've got Van Dijk, who's also in the last 6 years of his contract, who's running down his contract at the moment, but is in talks for a deal. He didn't stop. He carried on running. He didn't get to a position where he wanted to give up. He was screaming at Trent, and that's what your captain does. That's what your leader does. Trent does not have those qualities at the moment. Trent does not have those qualities in his arsenal at the moment. Van Dijk does. And I think losing Van Dijk, as much as we touch on Salah for everything he's done, as much as we on Trent because of the ability he's got going forward, I think if you lose Virgil van Dijk, you lose the core leadership in this team. You lose the most important part of the back line, because he's being the best centre-back bar maybe 1 or 2 seasons in Europe. And this season, he's back up there with the absolute best in all competitions. You lose him, you lose something vital at the back. And if Trent is wanting to make the step up into becoming the captain, to becoming the leader of this team, Van Dijk is the best option to follow. He's the best example for him to follow behind, because he is the body language, the way he's coordinating his teammates, the way he operates, he is fantastic. And we're confident that an agreement will be reached, but there's no breakthrough yet. And I'm curious with Van Dijk what it is. I don't know if it's the length of the contract. I don't know if it's the wages. I think Liverpool, and which goes back to FSG, have always been that sort of, we're not going to break the bank. We broke the bank for Salah in his last contract, and that was probably, I think that's as high as we're going to go in this scenario. I don't think anyone at the moment in the club is going to get there, especially with the age and years, even if Salah is playing as good as he is. And, this is what Liverpool have also been confident in reaching a full agreement with Mohamed Salah, who's giving full priority to Liverpool. Talks are ongoing, but so far no major progress has been made. And that's, I don't think FSG are going to break the bank. FSG, I'm going to come into this and think that we can spend 400k. For me, that this screams that it's something, maybe I don't know how to explain it, because it's just weird. I'm not going to believe anything. I'm not going to be confident on anything. I think we're closer than people are making out. I think there's a lot of discussion of, we're not quite there yet. We're still a long way off. We need to sort of meet in the middle. I believe we are closer along than what we think. And, talks are ongoing, but so far no major progress has been made. The talks have been going now for weeks and weeks and weeks for Van Dijk and Salah. Even Trent's been going on, but we sort of know where that's headed, let's be honest. I think we're due announcements in the next 2 weeks. I think that's probably a fair timeline. Trent is probably going to take longer, and it will be towards the end of the season. He'll do a Hazard, and he'll announce after a cup final, or he'll announce at the last game of the season, I'm going, yada, yada, yada. See you later. Salah and Van Dijk, I think in the next 2 weeks, we're going to get our answer whether they're going or not, because we're at the stage now where clubs can pre-negotiate, and Real Madrid are being touted with Van Dijk. Obviously they've said no, but the links are there, and Salah is probably going to get these links sooner rather than later. Again, I can't see any big clubs coming in for him in particular. There are teams that would be brilliant to get him, but obviously Madrid aren't going to claim him. I don't see Bayern doing it, even though Sane is being linked with a move away, Gnabry's being linked with a move away. PSG aren't going to go for Salah. So I think Salah and Van Dijk are just at the age now and the level where they just need to stay here, because this is as good as it's going to get at the moment. Again, no disrespect to their talent, but this is their peak. This is it now. This is as big of the club as you're going to get to. You can't go higher than this, because they're at the peak of their powers. Whereas Trent is maybe looking at this as a long time. Maybe he's looking at this as a long-term project. He can go to Real Madrid and probably develop certain skill sets. But I think we're closer to these than people are making out. Salah, I'm confident on Salah. I'm confident on Van Dijk. Trent is gone for me as far as I'm concerned. I'm bored of the discussion, to be honest. He's yet to give indication that he wants to leave the club, but then Madrid is saying that they've got the green light to get him, and then Marco coming in saying this. Until it's done, I'm past giving a shit. I don't care anymore. I'm not bothered. Do it or don't do it. Shit, I get off the pot. I just want an answer, yes or no, and I can move on with my life, because I'm resigned to Trent leaving, but I just need to hear it off him. And I said this in a stream like a week and a half ago. Salah and Van Dijk, I'm fully confident and we'll get those deals done, because I think there's more important players. They are the two most important of the three. And if you asked me 6 months ago, who would you be keeping? I will be saying Trent 100%, because of the age and the profile they fit. Now, Trent is the bottom of that list, because this not only to display against Man United, but if it's a case of he's saying, well, I should be captain because I'm vice captain, great. We'll show that leadership, show that on the pitch, like Van Dijk does, like Salah does, who grabs the game by the scruff of the neck. And that's not to say that Trent's never done it, but he was just absolutely demolished against Man United. And his overall body language, his attitude was piss poor. We saw Steven Gerrard back in 2015, 2014. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly, but he was on the pitch for 43 seconds and then got sent off. And he showed more passion in those 43 seconds than Trent did in that entire 86 minutes against Manchester United, or 82 minutes even. You can't allow yourself to be run off the pitch like that. You can't allow yourself in a game against Man United, regardless of what position they're in, be it 14, first, 20. I couldn't give a shit. Show passion, show energy, show commitment to actually do something. Don't just let them walk past you and do nothing. You can't in this fixture. That was a game where at the worst possible time, he underperformed and let pressure get to him. There was Manchester United in the Premier League. It's one of the biggest games of the season, one of the two biggest games of the season in that regard. And they walked past him, and he had his hands in the air, his head down. He tucked his tail, and if the earth could swallow him up, I'm guaranteed he'd let it, because it was just awful. And Van Dijk was screaming at him, yelling at him to show just something, to show a little bit of energy. And he goes for these incredible world-class passes, and no one can do it. De Bruyne is probably the only other player who can, and there's probably one or two others that I just can't remember off the top of my head. But Trent is in the top three passes in Premier League history, in my opinion, with De Bruyne, and I'd say Paul Scholes, David Beckham's maybe up there, so maybe top five. But that one pass, that one Hollywood pass, does not make up for a game of poor mistakes. I don't want to see someone have 90 minutes of absolutely dreadful football, but they pull off that one incredible pass at the end. I would rather you have a bad game, but commit. Why the fan base is so split at the moment on Darwin Núñez. Everyone loves the passion that he puts in. Everyone loves the commitment that he puts in, because it's what we as a fan base want to see. We want to see someone who's going to run, someone who's going to commit, someone who's going to put the effort in. And that's what Núñez does. He's frustrating on the ball. He's frustrating at shooting. And, Alan the Cat makes a good point saying that, I assume it's Trent would get destroyed at Real Madrid, and he absolutely would. You think Madrid fans are going to stand for that? You think Madrid fans are going to stand for that level of performance? If the English media are ripping into Trent now, if he goes to Real Madrid, a fan base who were crying out for Mbappe when they signed Eden Hazard, and this fan base that have absolutely taken Gareth Bale and turned him into a pariah, David Beckham, Michael Owens, so many, they booed Cristiano Ronaldo at one stage. That's how spoiled of a fan base we are talking. You think that Trent is going to go to that club and is going to reach godlike status to the point where no matter what mistake he makes defensively, they're not going to be bothered? No, not at all. If anything, he's going to get ripped into more. With us, he's had the time and the loyalty because he's a local lad. He's gone through the youth systems. He's got to where he is, and we love the story. But if you go to Real Madrid, they don't care about that. They're not bothered. They don't care. They're not asked where you've come from. They've not asked what club you've played for. They're not asked how much money you make. They want to see performances. And if you're defending like that against the likes of Nico Williams, for example, or Yamal, who are going to absolutely run rings around you, and you think they're going to let you get away with it, not a chance. And if he wants to leave the club, I will be devastated. Of course I will, like everyone will. But fine. Just do it or don't do it. Make up your mind. Van Dijk for me has took the perfect stance in this scenario. I don't. He said very little other than "I love the club and I would be happy to stay." That's all you need to say. Salah, same sort of thing. He's pushing for the contract, which is great. It shows a bit more determination to stay. But at the same time, I don't need the cryptic tweets. I don't need them tweeting Jamie Carragher saying you're obsessed with me. I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered about the PR. I don't care about all that. I just want to see performances. I want to see results. And the cryptic tweets, I agree with Carragher to an extent, who he's dividing opinion, I think, a bit in terms of the fan base with regards to what he says. I have no problem with what he's saying because I do agree that the tweets need to stop, the cryptic messages. Am I staying? Am I not? Or I'll put a picture up of the three players who are out of contract. Like that's going to miraculously force the issue. And I think there's a part of Salah that's looking at this and thinking, if I can get the fan base riled up enough, things will force change. Things will happen. And it's a bold strategy. I don't know if the club will agree with it. I don't know if it's something the club are going to go for in particular. But hey ho, it seems to be doing the job because everyone's taking notice at the moment, and in particular, like Salah tweeted Jamie Carragher just saying, "I think you're obsessed with me," and it went mental. I was on Grizz Khan's channel yesterday, or Grizz Khan even, and it went nuts. Everyone went mental just for a tweet off Mo Salah saying, "I think you're obsessed with me." And this is the level of scrutiny this contract negotiation has reached, where something so simple as a tweet saying that has blown up to the extent that it did, because everyone just wants a resolution. Everyone just wants to know if they're staying or going. And Salah, I think, is playing the game. Salah's playing the PR game. He wants to rile the fan base up because the fan base naturally is going to react. And the more we react, the more FSG and the ownership take notice. The more they take notice, the more the discussion is had. And I think he's playing the game perfectly to one side, where he's wanting as much media attention on this as possible. But I don't need it. Don't need it. He's performing on the pitch. That should be enough to get these discussions underway and to reach an agreement. And if the talks are win, offer him what he wants, what is it he wants? Let me know in the comments. What do you think is holding up the Mo Salah and Van Dijk contracts? Do you think it's money? Do you think it's length? Let me know what you think. And while you're doing it, make sure to click like and subscribe. I'll probably on for like another 10 minutes or so as I go through all my thoughts on this. But let me know, do you think that it's money as in wages? Do you think it's the length of contract that's holding up the situation? Do you think that Van Dijk is being held up because, well, like what? I'm lost, to be completely honest with you. I haven't too much of an idea as to what I think it is or anything, but yeah, it's a bit of a strange one at the moment, to be completely honest. We're all good. Oh, take a drink. I'm losing, but honestly, at least it's going from all this. It's like a ranting about contracts and crap like that. It's just, I don't know. We're top of the Premier League. We are top of the Champions League. And it's mental. The most talked about thing is contracts and Elon Musk taking over as the new owner of the club. Like, what time are we living in? Like, what do we need to do for the focus of this club again to be the football on the pitch? We're playing some of the best football in this club's history. The best starter managers ever made, or a top two managers ever made in this club's history with Arne Slot. And we're discussing contracts and we're discussing Elon Musk becoming the new owner of Liverpool. And we're talking about tweets and we're talking like, what's going on? What is going on? Why have things become so media and PR related nowadays? I don't care about all this. I'm not asked. I just want to see results. I want to see football. I want to see us play. I want to talk about the tactics. I want to talk about the team sheet. I want to talk about injuries, transfers coming in, players going out. Contract talk, I'm done with. Ownership talk, I'm done with. Just end all of it because it's not interesting. It's the modern game nowadays. It's become this twisted game of, who can tweet the most controversial thing to get what they want, and it's just bollocks. It's so bollocks, and I'm just done with it. I just want to see us progress on the pitch. That's all I'm asked about. And one player who I'm really, really, really hoping we don't get rid of is Ben Doak, because look, Ben Doak has been one of the most talented Scottish players coming through in recent years, and he had spells at Liverpool. I think was it last season. I think it was the Europa League. Started off fantastic in the first game or two, and then suffered a really bad injury. He was then out from then. He's gone on loans. At the moment, he's on loans at Middlesbrough, where he is absolutely smashing it. Like, he is unbelievably smashing it as Middlesbrough. I want to get his stats up actually, just to sort of, so we can have a bit of a discussion over this, because you know, Ben Doak's one of those players who I don't think many people expected to be leaving if he was. He's, I don't know. He's not someone I want to lose, to put it bluntly, just as sort of going on. But yeah, we're going on Ben Doak this season. This is the past 365 days in all of the second division leagues in Europe. Look at him. Progressive carries in the top 99% on 7.28, touches in the attacking penalty area 6.74, 98% progressive passes in the top 99%. He's been unbelievable this season. 21 games played in the Championship, 2 goals, 6 assists, which might not sound like a lot, but he's one of those players who has such a bright future in this game. He's such bright chance, and I hope he gets his chance. So Crystal Palace are one club that are interested in him. Ipswich are another one that are interested in him. Now, we are in a situation at the moment where we may not have Mo Salah beyond the end of the season. Salah may be going, the contract talk, yada, yada, yada. You've got Federico Chiesa, who's been linked to moves to Napoli and Fiorentina. His agent is already coming out and saying, no, we're not interested. We're staying after just 6 months. His time is not going to be long at this club. And he's been injured for pretty much the whole season. He's only just come back again from, I think it's his second injury or something daft like that. We need right wingers. Ben Doak is a talented player, both on and off the ball. And I might do a video on him, to be fair, the next few days, because he's not someone who I think gets enough discussion. It would be a shame to see him go. And if he does go, it's rumoured around £30 million, which would be ludicrous. That would be insane money to get for someone who is purely based on potential and what he's doing this season. That money could be invested elsewhere, but at the same time, you can't accept that offer if you don't know what's going on with Salah, if you don't know what's going on with Chiesa, because to me, you're going to then spend that money on a right winger to come in to be the long-term successors. This is either saying to me that Liverpool are convinced that those two are staying, or they really just don't see a future with Ben Doak, which is ridiculous in this team. And if we do sell him for 30 million, it's stinking of Jordan Ibe, it's thinking of Dominic Solanke, those players who were never of the quality that we needed them to be at the time, because obviously we know what Solanke's done since. If we can get £30 million for Ben Doak, who's barely featured for us by the Europa League and a couple of cup games here and there, and I think he's made like 1 or 2 league appearances off the bench. Who's had 1 good season at Middlesbrough, and I think, was he at Hull or something? We loaned him out last season. I can't quite remember where it was, but if we can get £30 million for that, that's great business. But I don't want to see him go. Money is not everything in this scenario. Ben Doak has so much potential, so much ability, so much talent, and to see him leave would be crushing. Like, if you go down on this, and I can get the actual statistics from the league itself, if you give me one moment, I'm trying to find them here. There we go. 24-25 championship season, and we're able to get a bigger breakdown of his individual stats. Now, Ben Doak is very good on the ball. He's very much someone who likes to progress play. He picks up the ball from deep. He's able to run with it, run at opposition defenders, and he's able to beat them one-on-one. And that's shown very much. His progressive carries, like I said, he's in the top 99 percentile across these second division teams. Damo says that Doak's ceiling is so high, still has so much he can develop and improve. A decent loan fee to Premier League clubs makes sense, but to do that next season, he's getting game time at Borough for now. I completely agree with that. I think that if you are, if you're a Premier League club looking at Ben Doak, you're seeing someone who is absolutely full of talent, someone who he's a fantastic player, and he needs to sort of go down that route of keep this season at Middlesbrough going, keep this form going, progress the way you are, and then next season go to that Premier League club and develop further there. We've seen ourselves do that with players in the past, but we tend to loan people to the Championship and below. Shea Hojo was a crushing example of it. We saw Harvey Elliott do it. We saw Tyler Morton do it. So many young players of ours go down to the Championship, progress, develop, and then come up to us straight away or are either sold. We need to get these loans to players in the Premier League. I think Marco Grujic, when we loaded to Cardiff, was that in the Premier League or was that in the Championship? Because that would be a perfect example of someone doing it. And I think he smashed it while he was there as well. And I agree, Doak's ceiling is massively high. He still has so much he can do. He has so much room to develop. Like I said, he's someone who's great on the ball. His progressive passes, 13.42 per 90 minutes. And that's in the top 99% of all the second divisions. His shooting, his shots on target, he has a 45.8% shot accuracy, putting them on target. His average shot distance shows, he's very eager to have a go at goal. But it's his passing, it's his work on the ball, it's his overall commitment to keep hold of the ball itself. And for an attacker, for someone who's trying to cut inside, for someone who's trying to focus primarily on goals and dictate the tempo of play from the right wing or the left wing, wherever it is he's being situated, those passing stats are fantastic because you see a lot of attackers, especially in the Championship, where they're pressed relentlessly. They constantly have pressure on them and players surrounding them. And it's often the case that they will misplace the passes. It is a case that they will make some mistakes. But if you're looking here, like his actual passes completed 29.11 per 90 puts him in the top 82%. But his short passes, 88.7% completion, top 85%. His medium's not phenomenal, but that's still a good numbers. 55.9% for his long rate. His assists, 0.36, puts him in the top 92%. He's a very versatile all-round developer of play. He's an assister, but he's also a goal scorer. He's someone who likes to come deep and progress play, but he's someone who's happy to run in behind. And one way that we can actually see that is the passes, is the live ball passes that he makes. 36.62. He wants to keep the play moving, but he also catches them a lot. Whenever the live balls are passed into him, he's very eager to get onto the end of them. He likes to run into space. I'm trying to find the actual. There is a stat you can find off him. Progressive passes received, 13.42, and that's when the ball completes the passes that move the ball towards the opponent's goal line at least 10 yards. So he's someone who likes to run in behind. He's someone who wants to be getting on the end of things, but he likes to create as well. And if you're looking at Slot's team at the moment, look at Mo Salah, look at Diaz, look at Gakpo, look at Jota even for an extent. He likes players who can create as well as score, players who can be on the end of chances but can also create chances as well. Ben Doak fits that mold. He's so good at running into space like Luis Diaz, not to those levels, by the way, just as a sort of example. He's great at running in space like Luis Diaz. He's great at dictating play like Mo Salah does. Why sell him? Why sell him? And this is a frustration I do have with this ownership, like I've expressed at point. The sell to buy model, I have no issue with whatsoever. I've got no problem if this is something that we do decide to do. But Ben Doak, there's no one else in that squad that you can look at and think there's money to be made here. We couldn't do it with an Endo. We couldn't do it with a Simicast, maybe. Why Ben Doak? This talented young prospect who could turn into a fantastic player. Dennis says again, Doak's getting a squad, is getting great international experience, already an established international for Scotland. He's probably still developing physically and also in decision making and learning tactic/system. And that's absolutely correct. And maybe he could benefit with a season under Slot to sort of develop his game, like we're seeing with Tyler Morton now, like we're seeing with Jayden Danns at the moment before he goes on loan somewhere. Players need that sort of time to integrate into the system, and Ben Doak is one of those players who I think would benefit massively from being around, in and around Arne Slot's team. He's someone who needs to develop from the likes of Mo Salah, who may be leaving at the end of the season. So get all the information you can from him now. Learn from Salah while he's still at this club. Not saying he's going to go, but he's there at the moment. You need to milk him. You need to make sure that you can get all the experience and great play from him that you can now. Because you're going to, if he wants to develop into this top player, who better to learn from on the right wing than Mohamed Salah? Ben Doak, needs a higher level experience. And Middlesbrough, he's doing superb. He's one of the best attacking players in the Championship. I think he got Player of the Month last month, if I'm not mistaken. But progressive carries, he's in the top 99%, as I said, which means he wants to take play forward. He's also received the most live balls of any player in the Championship. Successful take-ons, 2.03. Take-ons attempted, he's in the top 92%. Touches in the attacking penalty area, 6.74, puts him in the top 98%. You are so hard pressed to find someone in the Championship, half the Premier League, of someone who's so willing to get on the end of things, create things, run for things. I don't want to see Ben Doak go, and I don't want to see him go to Crystal Palace. If you absolutely need to sell Ben Doak, selling him to someone who is not a league title rival, is not a top four rival, but could come back to haunt us, is devastating. I felt the same with Carvalho and Seth Vandenberg to an extent, two players who I wanted to see succeed at this club, and they've gone to another Premier League side where I think they'll absolutely flourish and I think they'll do phenomenal. But it's a shame to see them go to these rival clubs. And Crystal Palace, for me, it's a great bit of business. I can understand completely why they're going for him. And £30 million for a proven international player who's performing in the Championship in a system like Michael Carrick's, completely understand their side of things. And Ipswich, if they could get him, would be fantastic. Darren says, again, can fully understand selling likes of Sepp Vandenberg and Carvalho and Harry Wilson, another great example, when it's obvious they are decent Premier League players, but not for a top four. But I agree with that to an extent. I think Sepp Vandenberg probably reached the limit that he could. He'd been on a couple of loans. I think there was room for Fabio Carvalho. And I think Harry Wilson at points has proven that he can be an effective player. But if we're looking for youth players who are going to come through the ranks and instantly be in that top four, you're going to be hard pressed to do it. Like, people will make the comparison to Trent. But when Trent was coming through, Klopp had joined, I think it was the summer before or October before even, and we were languishing around 7th or 8th. He developed with this club. He went from those 7th, 8th positions to a top team. Look at Quanta, who came in last season, and we absolutely flew with him because he's a fantastic player. But we were in a bit of a dip season. We were in a bit of a low point as opposed to where we've been in the past. So he's had time to sort of slowly develop. Now that we have ascended to that top point again, you can see there is a gap in quality between him and where we want to be and where he needs to be. If we're looking for young players who can fit the mold, you're very unlikely to get those players who are going to be immediately world class straight away to come into this system. So the likes of Vandenberg, Carvalho, Harry Wilson's another great example. And we've seen it in the past, the likes of Samid Yesil, Usama Asaidi as a couple of examples of players who young came in full of energy. Bobby Duncan is another one. So many examples of it. I just don't want to see Ben Doak go down that same route because he's talented, and we're seeing more from him in this spell at Middlesbrough, where he's going more down the Harvey Elliott route more so than he is the Bobby Duncan route. He looks fantastic, and every metric that we've touched on, every area which we've focused on in terms of his attack, his possession, his build-up play, his passing, his assists, his goals, his touches, everything fits Liverpool's model. And if this is the ownership saying, well, we need to make money, then that's more heartbreaking. That's worse for me because I don't want to see this talented player leave for that amount of money, not to Crystal Palace, not to Ipswich, not to another Premier League team. I want to see Ben Doak succeed in this squad because there is ability there, there is talent there, and there's someone who could easily come into this team and make an impact. You're telling me this season, Chiesa, in the form that he's in, because he's injured or he's not in the team or he's being linked with moves away, that Ben Doak couldn't benefit. Ben Doak couldn't do it the FA Cup games, maybe the Champions League games towards the end now that we've already qualified, maybe a couple of league games later on where he can come on and you can take Salah off and not have to move everyone into unfamiliar positions. I'm not sure. Really excited to see how Slot evolves the makeup of the squad as he identifies ideal players to suit him. He's done amazing with the squad in inherited, so can't wait to see who he will bring in. And I completely agree. I do still hope for Zubimendi. Zubimendi is still that player who I'm really, really hoping makes the move to us, as much as reports are saying no, as much as people are saying it's not going to happen. And Slot said it time and time again, and I said this to Dougie Critchley earlier on today from Sky Sports, that when Slot speaks, it's not rehearsed. It's not calculated. He just knows what to say. And he said at the beginning of the season, this squad is good enough. This team is good enough. And he's proven himself right and he's proven us wrong because we were saying, no, 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 we need this, we need that, we need a new centre back. We're going to need to bring in another DM, which we still do to an extent, but he's turned Gravenberch into the best number 6 in the league. McAllister is one of the best midfielders in the league by a mile. He has got Canate, who up until his injury, I think was our best centre back, even better than Van Dijk. Mo Salah's having the season of his life. Diaz and Gakpo out of this world. Excuse me. There's a couple bits. I want to see Nunez do a bit better. Obviously, Robertson struggled with the system. Trent had his recent struggles against Man United, but before then, I think he was playing some of the best football. Statistically, it was his best season that he's ever played for us, both in terms of attack and defense. I'm loving seeing it. And the narrative and the focus should be on this squad. It should be where we are right now. It should be how well we've done, top of the Premier League, top of the Champions League, Carabao Cup semi-finals, Accrington Stanley on Saturday, which is a game I'm going to. I'm really excited for. That should be the narrative, not contracts, not Elon Musk, as daft as it is to say. And yeah, that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think Mo Salah and Van Dijk and Trent will sign? What do you think the big reason for the contract dispute is? And let me know what you think the best move for Ben Doak is. Should he stay at Liverpool? Should he go to Crystal Palace? Or should he go on loan to a Premier League level club next season to see how he gets on? Make sure to click like and subscribe if you haven't done already. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all in the next